Hey, welcome back to the Full Weight of Joy podcast. Happy New Year. This is the first episode of 2025, and I am so excited to be here with you today. On the day this drops, I either made a really great decision or it's going to be one of the worst decisions, but it's already done. And so we'll see how it goes. But my both teenagers, both kids, are getting their wisdom teeth out the day this drops. And so we're starting off 2025 with a bang. And again, not sure how it's going to go. I'm assuming, I was like, if I can take the day off, I can make sure that I'm, available for one day versus, 2 different days trying to work my schedule. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be great. I've got ice cream, popsicles, pudding, chicken broth. I think I'm ready for this. And of course, Tylenol and ice packs and all of that. I remember getting my wisdom teeth out and it being one of the best dental experiences in my life. My mom thought I went to the restroom, which I did. But then when they came to get her, she's like, oh, she went to the restroom. That's how fast they stopped me from coming back to back to the lobby. And then we're done before she even realized that I was gone. And it was a great dental experience. And I've had some ones that are not great. So let's hope it goes well. But why am I talking about this? One is, as I was planning this monumentous occasion, right? I was looking at, okay, what do they need? They need my attention. They need some space. They need to have time where they don't have to, they can get time off work. They can get time off school. we can have a low key weekend. I was looking at that and I was like, okay, what do I need? I'm like, well, I need to make sure that I have things done beforehand. I need to have a day off work where I don't have clients that day, where I don't have, I have to do my podcast beforehand. And I was looking at what I needed and I was thinking about, as I go into 2025, this idea, I've gotten a lot better with asking myself, what do I need in this moment? And what do I want? How do I want this to play out? And that's what I want to talk about with you today is, do you ever ask yourself, okay, what do I need and how do I want this to play out? And then what do I need to get those to happen? Because part of self-awareness, and I know some people are like, oh, self-awareness, just understanding it. And I explained, it's more than self-care. Okay. It's more than understanding that we need a timeout. It's, in fact, I've come up with 14 things that if you know these 14, and then you have the epitome of self-awareness, and they're not hard. And the hard part is they're ever evolving. That's the part that's crazy to me, is as I go through them and as I'm, working them out in my lives and understanding, asking myself the questions, going through the journaling and everything. And with my clients as well, then as one, if we work on boundaries, then our non-negotiables evolve as well. And so then we go back and revisit that. So this is a journey, not a destination. And I want to make it easy for you. So this year I'm diving more into this because I have discovered that the more I understand me, the more I understand the way God wired me. I understand what success is to me. I understand what failure looks like to me. I understand how to redefine failure to where I can take a win from it. When I understand the success ceiling that we put ourselves on, I want more, I'm feeling more, but I don't know how to get it. When we feel stuck, the more we understand how God wired us, then I understand how to get myself unstuck. And so these are things that I've been doing with myself, my clients, my friends, my kids, even. These are not just I feel like they're one step ahead because some of these elements they're already aware of. And so we're going to talk about these elements. We're going to talk about it because you're like, 14 things, Tammy, that's so much. Okay. It's a high number, but it's really, they go well together. I just broke everything out into individual things, kind of a checklist. If and so you can go through and say, okay, what are my non-negotiables? What are my core values, which I talk about a lot? What are the energy bringing and energy draining activities? And again, I've talked about how per season those shift. And so we'll talk about that. But I wanted to talk about this first. What do we do if we're new to this self-awareness arena. Okay. You may not be new to self-awareness. Like you may understand, like, okay, this triggers me. This is a need that I have. I'm an introvert versus an extrovert. I need to know details behind things. I can't just have a understanding of the project. I want to know the what's the intention. You can know things about yourself, but do you know why you need to know those? And the other thing is that, like, how do you get to that point in the first place? And so there's no much more. Like, even if we are self-awareness gurus, there's still things that you can learn, and it's still part of the process. And it's something that I've incorporated into my daily life versus just done it like, set it and forget it. And so the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is this whole idea. And I introduced the SHINE framework to you, and I should have had my SHINE. Let me see where it is real quick. Oh, it's not there. Okay. See yourself clearly as S. Hear your calling as H. Integrate your whole self as I. Navigate your path as N, and embody your purpose. So this is like a constant. Once you get to, and kind of the embody your purpose is where we put it all together. But we're going to really dive in today to the first pillar of see yourself clearly. In order to first see yourself clearly, you get to get a baseline. You get to understand where you are, because we are creatures of habit, whether you believe it or not, whether you think it or not, because even those individuals who like to no schedule, and they don't want any organization, and they don't want any, they're fly by the seat of their pants kind of gal. There's still habits within them that direct their decisions. And we can't change our decisions if we don't know the habits and the drivers and the patterns that we fall into. Just think about if you were just to have somebody get you coffee. For me, it's tea. I don't drink coffee. I love my tea. But if I was going to ask, if someone was going to get it for me, there's a pattern. There's a process that I just give them, get me a London fog. Done. That is my pattern, because if I try to explain how I like my tea, then that's, it's different. How do you like your coffee? How do you take your coffee? Like, there's a pattern there. Do you like it sweeter? Do you like it not? There's reasons why. So first we understand what the patterns are, then we can understand what we get from them. Okay. And drinking your beverage of choice is like superficial. Yes. But decisions we make, what comes first? Is the first thing that processes in your mind is I need to protect my energy? Is it that, for me, it's like, what is the best decision for the collective whole? And so I know that. And if you know your motivation, you know the reason why that pattern, that decision making is done this way, you can decide if you want to keep it or not. And that's what this whole process is about, is now empowering yourself to decide, is this the way I want it to be or not? Because if you look, our self-awareness is wrapped up in our identity. It's in our purpose. It's in our calling. It's our decision-making. Our self-awareness it's in our day-to-day work. It's in every aspect of our life, truly every aspect of our life, because we are unique. We may have similar characteristics as someone else, so we may have similar patterns, but there is no one who has all the same patterns and the same habits as you. Just like there's no one who has all the same strengths and the same reasons, because we haven't had the same experiences. We don't have the same worldview. There's so many tiny, intricate details that if you don't understand the why behind the why, then you're going to start, it's like starting let me see. It's like starting a race, but starting it at the parking lot versus at the starting line. That's kind of where it is. It's going to start, when everyone else is starting at the starting line, I'm going to start at my car. I'm going to start with turning off my car. You're already working from behind. And so let's talk about how do we get a baseline? Because if we want to have the fulfillment, and if we want to turn our success, because I know you're successful, and you're like, Tammy, I'm successful already without having the self-awareness, but imagine the significance you can have and how you can do it easier and more intentional if you understand how you were wired behind your decision making. Your success can, break through that ceiling and go and experience the more that you want. Like, I have a podcast coming up in a couple of weeks about if you're like 5 signs you're not living up to your potential. And this is one because I was like, I'm doing good, but I feel like there's more that I could do, but I'm exhausted and I'm tired and I'm out of energy and I'm doing my best. And so when I looked at it from a self-awareness perspective, I realized that some of the things that I was doing was not in my strengths. And so by shifting them, by saying no to things that don't matter, I was able to say yes to things that really did. So that's where that the success turns into significance, which leads to impact, which leads to service, which leads to fulfillment and joy, which is our ultimate goal, is to carry the full weight of joy versus the full weight of the world. Okay, so these questions, I want you to sit and I just want you to ask yourself these questions as we start 2025. Like, the first question is, do you want to be in the same place in a year from now as you are right now? Do you want to be in the same place? Because if you do, if you're like, Tammy, my life is great. I want to just stay where I'm at. Like, I grew a lot last year, and this year it's kind of like status quo. I just want to settle in. I'm like, great. Then it's a different set of questions. Also, even if you're settling in, does that mean that you're in the same place? It actually doesn't, because even if you're settling in, there's still going to be a confidence level that increases, that you embody these decisions and these habits more. So I just want to challenge that too, because most people are like, no, Tammy, I don't want to be in the same place a year from now as I am right now, but I'm ready to make the changes. And so first we got to decide, are we willing to get uncomfortable to make the changes? Are we willing to get uncomfortable and to look at the baseline? And we got to see ourselves as we are. And I want to emphasize here, as you are does not mean with judgment. It doesn't mean with criticism. There's no guilt. There's no shame. It is what it is. You are here because of the decisions you made. And so now you get to look at them constructively and with grace versus criticism, with love and compassion versus judgment and guilt. Because you made the decisions for a reason. It got you to, it helped you even just survive. And it helps you get to where you are. And maybe you're more than surviving. Amazing. But what got you here is not going to get you where you want to go. And so first we got to figure out where you are. And so these questions, so where do you currently feel stuck in your life? Whether it's at work, like what is it where do you feel stuck? Is it what in your life? Like what area? And I love looking at the whole self-care wheel, and where it's like the different domains of your life, the health, the finances, because that kind of gives you an idea, and it allows you to look at each domain separate and say, okay, how am I doing in this area, in your relationships, in your family, in your friendships, in your community? You take the time to ask yourself those, like, if I look at this wheel and I had to say where I feel the most stuck, which one would it be? And then what specific situations make you feel this way? What are the circumstances behind it? And by getting clear, again, no judgment. I say this more for myself than others because I have that inner critic, my inner critic, Miranda, who is constantly telling me all the things that I've done wrong. And I have to put a halt on it and say, you know what? I may not have done it right, but I don't think I did it wrong. I may not have gotten everything right, but I still made the decisions for a reason. And then the next little thing to consider here is like, how long have you been experiencing this? Because when we understand, it's like, well, it's been my whole life I've done this. Aha, pattern. So we're just identifying, we're just getting information right now. Again, no judgment, no criticism, no shame, no guilt. We're just looking at it as it is what it is. And then you can decide if you want to keep it as is. And then the question is, what have you tried to move forward with this? And sometimes the answer is, I haven't. I've thought about it. I've wanted it, but I haven't actually done anything. And that right there is gold to understand that. And there's times that I'm like, oh, Tammy, this you've said you wanted it, and yet you haven't done anything towards it. Do you really want this or not? Why do you want this? The next one is the next overarching question. So the first one was, where do you currently feel stuck? The next one is, what patterns do you notice in your life that may be holding you back? For me, it's procrastination. And I understand now that I like to know how things work out. I like to see the whole path before I start. Life doesn't work that way. So that is something that when I start feeling my tendencies to procrastinate, that's a trigger for me that I need to make a decision, that I need to take action. And before I didn't understand the why I would procrastinate. And so the question of what patterns do you notice, ask yourself these and just see, are there reoccurring situations that frustrate you? Do you see similar challenges appearing in several areas of your life? When I start procrastinating in one area, it seeps into others. And so it definitely is my trigger that's my indicator that something is going on and I need to make it. I need to make a change. I need to take some action and I need to do it messy. And then like, what responses or behaviors do you typically default to? When you understand, and this is again, we're getting a baseline. And these are not easy. Like, you're going to have to wrestle with this a little bit. They may take some time. Like, start asking yourself these questions and maybe ask them like every day for the next week, like for the next 7 days. Give yourself 15 minutes to just answer these questions a little bit deeper, because these are like typically our patterns. The reason why we don't notice them is because they're thrown back into our subconscious, and we do them without any actual like intentional decision. Like, they're just thrown in our subconscious. Our brain's like, just like breathing. It's like, oh, I know how we handle that. I'll take care of it. I'm going to take that off your plate for you. And so it's time to bring those to our conscious. We have to start identifying them. And so when you look at what responses or behaviors you typically default to, and there are tools that help you. This is something that we can do if you're interested in coaching, if you're interested in going deeper here. This is something that I can help you with, because there are tools that help you identify it. And this is a really great place. So end of January, I have 5 spots. I'm actually going to launch Align and Shine in the end of February. However, I have a beta group. So if you're interested, so this will be the investment is a little bit lower. The time with me is a little bit more, because there's a couple things that I'm still working out. And so if you want to go deeper, if you want to understand all these aspects of self-awareness, if you want to start looking at and figuring out what your calling is, who are you now, and understand the why behind the why, if you want to be able to make decisions clearer, if you want to be able to break that success ceiling and move into the transformation, make that impact that you want to make, get on a call with me and let's talk and see if this aligns with you. See if this would be a good fit for you. And again, this first time I'm going to do it, start it in the end of January, and it's only 5 people. That's it. And so if you're interested, like, get on my calendar. I'll put in the show notes, and in the note, like, you can ask, like, if there's anything that you want to tell me, just say I'm interested in self-awareness. Like, just, I'm interested in Align and Shine, or whatever you want to. I like the name Align and Shine because that's kind of what we're doing in this. We're aligning with who God's created us to be. And then we're going to now step into that confidence and shine our light, because we're called to be the light on the hill. We're not called to keep our gifts and our strengths and our talents to ourselves. And a lot of us, it doesn't mean you have to shout from the rooftop, but you do get to take intentional action. You do get to tell people, even your closest friends, how God is working in your life. So we get to shine our strengths by making an impact. So that's why I call it Align and Shine. And I love it. And yeah, I'm excited about it. But back to the questions. The third question, the third thing I want you to ask yourself is, how willing are you to examine uncomfortable truths about yourself? If you can't get uncomfortable with you and ask yourself these uncomfortable truths, it's going to be really hard to make shifts and changes. If you are allowing the guilt, the shame, the criticism, and the judgment to seep in and to control the fact that you your decisions and the fact that you're like, no, I'm not willing to look at the patterns and the habits I've had in order to get the patterns and the habits that I want. It's going to be hard. And so, and that's okay. If you're not ready yet, you're like, Tammy, I'm not in a place where I have the headspace to work on self-awareness. Like, I don't want to get uncomfortable. That's okay. Keep listening to the podcast, keep making strides, like take small intentional steps, and then just pray about it, because I'm telling you, there is so much freedom when you understand why you do what you do. There's so much confidence in there, because I know it's not dependent on me. It's how God wired me. Like the confidence and the ability to step into, well, even to say no to things that I'm like, I could do. I feel like you want me to do it, but I know it's not the best yes. Then I'm able to do that because of understanding how I align and shine. And so there's no judgment here if you're not ready to get uncomfortable, because it is asking yourself some questions about, like, why do you do what you do? And it's sometimes it's like there's fears there. And God said in like a million times in the Bible, do not fear. And so if we're allowing fears to decide our decisions, we're never going to have the fulfillment and the joy and the impact and the leaving the legacy that he wants for us. The assignment he's called us to will not come to fruition. And so what areas of life are difficult to look at? What fears come up when you think about this deep self-examination? There may be some traumas. There may be some decisions you made that now that they're not the best decisions, but you did what you have to do. And so are you willing to give yourself grace and forgiveness for those things? And then how do you typically handle feedback from others? Because if you can't handle it from others, it's really hard to handle it from ourselves, because we know so much more and we know the words in our hearts, we know the words that we don't want to hear. And those typically are the ones that our brain's going to feed us, because it keeps us stuck. And so the questions again is, where do you currently feel stuck in your life, or in your job, in your business, in your like what areas, what patterns do you notice in your life that might be holding you back? And how willing are you to examine uncomfortable truths about yourself? So, because when we start looking at this, so the first step, the first pillar of the Shine framework is to see yourself clearly. And it's not to see yourself in a negative light. It's not to see yourself how you wish you were, but it's to see yourself how you are. So then you can make those decisions to change, because our identity is fluid. Who we are it grows with us. Our identity in Christ grows as we get closer to Christ. Our identity, our strengths grow as we understand our strengths. Our self-awareness, when we understand why we do what we do, our decisions grow. And so we're not stuck. And it's fluid. We get to go on this journey, and it's a journey that you get to be on for as long as you want, or as long as you're breathing. And so that's what I wanted for you to just, how do you start? Like, get a baseline, look at where you are. And I'm telling you, like, it may be difficult at first. And for me, having such a deep critical voice inside of me, my cynical side, my inner critic, it took a lot of grace and love and compassion. And I had to separate the decisions I made from who I am now. And so that's what I want for you as well. Is I want you to be able to separate and realize that, like I have a lot of grace for the Tammy of 10 years ago. She was still in the middle of figuring out what her grief life looked like. She had 10 years ago, my daughter would be 4 and my son would be 6. And I was, doing parenting on my own. So there's a lot of things that I look at now and I'm like, oh, if I would not have let that slip, I would not be fighting this battle now. But then I'm like, well, you know what? You let that slip because you had other important things that you were dealing with. And so you like the compassion I have for myself. And that's what I want for you too. If I can do it, so can you. because I was learning that one of my friends, she doesn't have a harsh inner critic. Like her inner critic is so loving. And I'm like, tell me about that. And so like and I get it. We can be hard on ourselves. We don't have to stay there. We can understand and we can take this success that we've felt and this ambition and this desire to live up to our potential, this desire to live out our God assignment, our God dream. And it starts with understanding how He wired us. And so this year, we're going to step in. I'm going to talk more about this Shine framework. And these are the steps that we take in order to really step into who we're called to be, to identify like this identity and create these decisions and be able to go forward with confidence the direction we need to go. And so with that, I would encourage you to get on my calendar and let's chat. I am so excited about this year. I have, the Line and Shine program. Like this is a coaching program. We're going to meet weekly. And I'll tell you more about it soon, but it's going to be 8 weeks. And I'm going to do it 4 times in the next 4 months. And after that, we'll see. But for right now, those are the only 4 opportunities to start it. And one of those is the 5-person one that we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to have a little bit more of an intimate setting and we're going to dive deeper. Like there's going to be a lot of questions. You're going to get to help me figure out a few different, like the workbook. I love classes with workbooks. Like give me a good workbook, give me exercises. Like I want to read, I want to fill in blanks. I want some journaling prompts. So that's what this beta group is helping me come up with. Like, what questions do you have? What things do you need? And so with doing that, you get a little bit more time with this. And so if you're interested in it, if you want to know more, and I will talk more about it, but let's let 2025 be the year that we shine. I've already talked about how my word of the year is favor. And the closer I get to understanding how God wired me, and that's when I'm able to accept and embrace the favor that God's put on my life. And shining is part of that. And stepping into who God's called me to be and being that light on the hill and being confident in that is all part of the process. And so get on my calendar. Let's talk. I've got a quiz coming out that helps you understand got a phone call. There we go. A quiz coming out that talks about what is your level of self-awareness and how can you, what is your journey that you're on? And so I'm excited about that because that is almost done. We're putting the finishing touches on it, and then we're going to start testing it. And then we're going to hopefully within a week, we are so close to it. And I'm so proud of it because I worked so hard to come up with the questions and the responses and using the background of using the neurocoaching, using the Enneagram, using Clifton Strengths, using my background as a therapist, taking some of those core tenets from psychology and incorporating all of those together. So I am super excited about this, and I'm just excited about 2025. Let's do this, and Happy New Year. And choose joy until joy chooses you, and live a year of favor. Bye for now.